Hey guys, welcome back to the Swords and Magic and Stuff devlog. 2 weeks ago we revealed multiplayer, and the reactions we received were far beyond what I could have imagined. I knew you guys wanted to play with friends, but I just didn't realize how badly. I'm still patting Maz on the back for all his hard work. The multiplayer stress test was a huge success, so much so that we've decided to leave the test up for players to toy around with for a bit. We'll be updating it soon to keep our testers busy, finding bugs while we work on bigger things. I do need to point out though that if you've seen or played the multiplayer, please keep in mind that it's simply a proof of concept right now. We need to know if the multiplayer felt good, or even if it functioned at all, so Maz tossed in some PvP aspects and some PvE stuff just to see what happened. The test zone is not representative of what the actual game will be like. There's no tutorial, no real scaling or progression, and the boss in the zone is simply just another enemy scaled up in size and hit points. The actual game will still be an open world exploration based game with a huge focus on discovery and story. But now you'll be able to do it all with your friends. And for those of you wondering, the game is currently being hosted via peer-to-peer. This means you can host a game and friends connect directly to you to play in the same world. In the future we'll be adding password-protected hosting and a dedicated server available for you to download, and host your own always-up world so your group can play whenever they want, and not rely on you being online and playing. As of now, there will be no official servers as this game is not an MMO, though we have considered not putting a cap on the dedicated servers. If we do have a cap, it'll be completely determined by the availability of the content at different numbers of players online. If 8 players breaks the game mechanically, then we'll drop it down. And if 8 players still feels good and fun and exciting, then we might try to increase it to 16. We're mostly just worried that raids of 16 players storming through a boss fight designed for 4 players is just going to make the game too easy, and that's not a good idea. So the last 2 weeks we've been working on a number of things. Maz and I decided that the way I've been building the map isn't exactly ideal. It's just going to end up a patchwork of zones that won't lend well to a large open world to explore. And so we're transferring all those maps into a new large open world island with natural borders and exploration barriers. This means that I can remove a lot of blocking volumes, and we can really open up the world to players to explore whenever and just however they want. This also means that by the time we're done moving the maps and stitching everything back in, that I'll have a huge island to start building on for the early access release. I've also been in contact with a few publishers this week. Turns out I've made some waves and people are starting to take us serious now. And while that's awesome, I've decided that this project just doesn't have room for a publisher. Most of the publishers I've spoken to want at least 70% of the revenue, which is asking a lot from a developer who has poured thousands of hours into their project over the last 2 years. And I plan to pour thousands more into the game before release. I just can't justify splitting the profits that much. So I suppose this is the official no publisher announcement. Unless a miraculous hands-off publisher with a fair split comes our way and offers to actually help with development costs, and let's be honest, that's not going to happen, then Swords and Magic and Stuff will remain a self-funded, self-driven indie title designed, developed, and published by Kindred Games. I just think this game belongs to us, and it should stay that way. When a publisher gets involved, usually it means they set deadlines and restrictions, it means no more adding or removing features or changing gameplay drastically, and that just doesn't work for the way this game is being and has been developed. In other news, these last 2 weeks have been a lot of fixing mechanics. For example, the original shield design wasn't going to work, so we've officially changed it to a stamina system. Each shield has a different amount of stamina, which directly translates to damage it can block. If a shield is raised, it doesn't recover stamina until it's lowered again. If a shield runs out of stamina, it goes on cooldown for several seconds while it recovers. This makes tanks have to manage their shield as a resource and not just hold it up all the time. We also thought about ways to exploit this by swapping out shields when one breaks, and so we've stuck the stamina stat directly on the player instead. This is really the only reason we're calling it stamina and not health for the shields. If you swap out your shield, your new shield will also be on cooldown until your stamina is refilled. We've also been tossing around the idea of a skill system. I'd call it a tree, but the way it works doesn't really function like a tree. The more you use a specific item type, such as a sword, the better you get with all swords. You'll level it up in the background and passively unlock skills. Some of these skills could be passive, and others could be active abilities. You'll be able to open your skills menu and equip 2 skills from any of your weapon skills. This means you can equip a healing skill you've learned by using a lot of life spells, and a sword skill if you want to mix and match. But that also means that if you swap out your healing staff to a shield, that healing skill will become inactive and basically just take up a slot for no reason. I really think this is a great design to add player progression to the game. It's a bit complicated compared to the rest of the game's design, but it would add a lot of playability and make finding new items fun and exciting and not knowing what sorts of skills you may unlock if you train enough. Active skills also bring a whole new dimension to combat, especially PvP. With only 2 available slots for skills, you'll have tons to choose from, but you'll never know what to expect from your enemy. These skills could even be used by AI to make more elite enemies much more fun to outplay in combat. Not only does that rogue you're fighting now have a really fast dagger, but he can also teleport behind you now in combat and land a devastating backstab if you're not quick enough to get out of the way. Really, the big problem with this system is designing the skills. It could take months just to get them all built, and don't even get me started on balance. If we go with a system like this, we'll have to take it a few steps at a time. We're thinking of 1 or 2 skills that can be unlocked early on, and eventually add to it throughout the early access development. That way we can balance as we go instead of handing players dozens upon dozens of skills right off the bat and then trying to change and fix them all in future patches. So while I've been waiting for the island map so I can start world building, I've been working on a few things myself. I've been putting together some modular building kits. The original design for the houses in the world were actually pretty small, and they're going to be kind of difficult to decorate and maneuver through, especially with multiplayer now being a thing. So I've decided that instead of spending a full day on one building, redesigning, and remodeling, I thought a modular kit might just work better. Now I'll be able to drop in pieces of buildings and mix and match styles however I see fit. It may take a few days to get the kit polished up, but well worth the possibilities later on, I think. This means that Moz can also use the kit to construct buildings in the game if he wants to work on adding a new area to the map without having to request custom art from me every time. Each building will now look mostly unique, and it should change the way the world comes together. So the last thing I want to talk about is the character clothing textures. Moz put together this awesome model viewer program. This program's a simple exe package with all the character models for all the playable races in the game. With this program, you can customize a character how you like, with skin color, hairstyle, and even different faces, much like the in-game character creator. And then you can actually upload your own clothing textures. This program will come packaged with a UV map that you can use for a guide for building your own clothing textures. So don't get too excited. We don't currently have a way to import these textures into the game to use in multiplayer. Plus, I don't know if we can trust you guys with that sort of power. I've seen some of the Minecraft skins. But this does mean that I can let you guys design your own clothing and submit them via a Google form on the Discord channel for review. Any outfits that I like, I'll stick in the game and give you credit as the creator. I think this is an awesome way to get our community involved in the development and just sort of helping design a big part of the game. Collecting clothing and customizing your character is a really big part of my original vision, and now with the help of you guys, hopefully the clothing collection can be just as robust as I originally wanted, plus a lot more unique and diverse than I could ever design myself. On my last stream I showed off all the features of the texture viewer and how awesome it is for quickly and easily viewing clothing textures throughout the design process. I plan on using this program from now on when I'm making my own textures. I also spent some time doing a bit of a tutorial on how I go about making my clothing for the game and how I use Inkscape to do so. If you're interested in seeing how I do it, check out the VOD from Tuesday the 19th and 20th, because my streams run past midnight for me. During the stream, I also started building a modular clothing kit to save time and make designing more basic outfits more simpler. So now I can drag and drop some base pieces in to build a whole outfit in just a few minutes rather than a few hours. Hopefully this more modular design approach to all my art will benefit me in the end. During the stream, I also started realizing all the limitations I have with this vector program I use. I've been using Inkscape for quite a while now, and it's been nice and simple, but I'm beginning to think that it's time to move to a more feature-complete package that boasts a less destructive workflow. I'm considering learning Affinity Designer to replace it. I'll be checking out some tutorials this week and hopefully speeding up the texturing workflow, not only for clothing, but also icons, spell particle designs, and even effects. So that about wraps up what I've been working on for the last 2 weeks. This devlog was probably a bit more boring than the last few, but it was more of an update on the progress of the game and less of an outline of a feature. I'm thinking next week's devlog will be all about lore and the history of Tirowin, which is the world the game takes place in. I have a lot of rich history written already, and a lot of people are really interested in that, so stay tuned. Before we go, I recently unlocked the membership and merch features here on YouTube. So now you should be able to join the membership program to get early access to my videos, as well as get your name featured in the credits, just like my Patreon supporters. You'll also get a custom Swords and Magic badge next to your comments, and access to some of my emotes. Thank you to my Patreon supporters who make these videos possible. Thank you to my mod team for keeping the community and the Discord organized and tidy, and thank you to Moz for revitalizing this project. But a special thank you to my wife, Jana, who's been really stepping it up lately to help me manage this growing community. She's been a huge help in streams and in Discord. You have her to thank if you received a key for the beta event, and she'll be handling these keys going forward as well. She works a more than full-time job and still manages to come home and help me with the game. She's amazing and she deserves all the credit. If you see her in the Discord, tell her thanks for all her hard work. Thanks for watching. Bye.